Okay, this video is going to be about breathing. It sounds a little silly that, oh, we need to talk about how to breathe. We breathe every day, all the time. But especially with flute players, because you lose so much air, right? You feel like you're constantly needing more. It's important to understand how the breathing mechanism works and exactly what to do when you find like somebody has no breath support whatsoever. So we have a couple of different concepts to talk about. First is just the breathing mechanism itself, and I have a little demonstration here for you. Okay, so this is my little guy that lives in my office, and these are your lungs, right? It's important to understand that lungs are a vacuum. They are not muscles. They literally are subject to the space that they have, right? So they are organ sacs that take one out of here, and they've got little veins in them. And then, of course, here they're connected to the oxygen supply for the rest of your body and get pumped around by your heart, right? Your cardiopulmonary system. So the thing about our lungs is that everybody talks about lung capacity. And yes, that's important. Exercise helps lung capacity, but what really helps is the flexibility of all this other stuff around our lungs. So if you think about it, what happens? This is your diaphragm. Your diaphragm contracts and it sucks air in to the vacuum that is your lungs. So with that, you're kind of subject to whatever capacity you have, right? As big or as little as you are. However, your diaphragm is attached. These are what should be your ribs over here. It's attached to your ribs. It's attached to your spine. We don't have a good spine on this dummy, but you can see all the muscles in the back, right? All of this stuff actually helps you breathe. So, what I tell my students, a couple of things. First of all, keep your ribs nice and open like a rib cage, like an old fashioned bird cage, actually. If you've seen like Tweety cartoons, those really old iron bird cages, think of your ribs like that. You don't ever want to collapse in like this because you won't get enough air in. So think about keeping nice and tall and open and strong. The diaphragm acts like the bottom of your rib cage or your bird cage. Okay. It contracts. And when it contracts, it pushes on all this other stuff that you have in your gut. It pushes on your liver and your stomach and your spleen and your colon down here. So you're going to actually feel this in your stomach. Okay. You don't actually get air in your stomach. That's not something we want. Okay. On a regular basis, or we'd be burping all the time. Right. We don't want that. What we want is it in our lungs. But because of the pressure that your diaphragm is going to exert on the rest of your body, you will actually feel it down below. Right. So what I tell my students is to breathe. Feel like you're breathing in 3 inches below your belly button, like down here into your belt buckle. That is an indicator that your diaphragm's working and it's pushing on everything else. If you feel it down there, you're in good shape for getting the most out of, the biggest bang for your buck, basically, out of your breath. The other thing, keep the ribs nice and wide, keep the chest open, and then breathe into your back. Right. So, like I said, the diaphragm is actually connected all the way around here. If you feel it in your back, you're getting enough air. Okay. When you release the air, right, through our little embouchure, our poo aperture, we want to make sure that we're releasing from the bottom up. So if you're, into yoga, you've probably heard this before. You want to take your belly button and pull it toward your spine. And again, on the little mannequin, if your belly button's here and you're pulling it toward your spine, what you're essentially doing is taking your abs and you're pushing on the bottom of all this stuff here. That's going to put pressure on the diaphragm. That's actually going to speed up the air, and you'll end up using less air, but with more air speed if you do that. So you're pulling your belly button towards your spine, and that is essentially kind of like a tube of toothpaste, right? You're kind of squeezing from the bottom and getting all the possible air out that you can. Your lungs, being a vacuum, are never meant to be empty completely. Okay. We've probably all experienced this, your elementary school monkey bar um, days, right? Everybody's fallen off the monkey bars and probably gotten the wind knocked out of them. That hurts. Okay. It hurts a lot. And it's because your lungs are potentially empty or close to empty, and it burns, to have that happen. So we want to not get to that place, our lungs are supposed to be full. We want to use about 2/3 of the air in our lungs. There's something like 30% of the air that just stays in there. And it's meant to stay in there as a defense mechanism, right? If we're drowning or suffocating somehow, or otherwise can't take a breath right away. We've all experienced that too, where it starts to burn a little bit. That's that last 30% of our air that's being used up. So it's supposed to stay like that. If your students are having a problem sustaining sound, make sure that they are not collapsing, but they are blowing and pulling their belly button toward their spine, right? So you get all the air out that you possibly can. So from the bottom up, and keeping their shoulders nice and stable. And in doing that, hopefully then you're going to be able to make more than just the short sounds we were doing in the last video. You can actually still use the head joint for this, but allow the body to kind of expel the air in a longer sense. Right. And this is a good source of fun games too, where you can kind of have, competitions. How long can everybody play a certain note? You can time students, you can put it on their practice charts to do this at home. A good way to help build the flexibility of all of these muscles, because it's really, when you're talking about lung capacity, that's really what we're talking about, is the flexibility of all of these intercostal muscles, and then your back muscles, and then of course this the front side, right? Your abs and your obliques. What is manipulating the air is the flexibility of those muscles. So you could do sort of breathing gym type games, okay, where you breathe in for 4 beats, out for 4, right? So let's try that. You breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Right? And now breathe in for 4 and out for 6. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4. And that was 6. And then we breathe in for 4 and out for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a really good way, and we can continue this. We could breathe in for 2 and out for 8, or in for 2 and out for 10, right? And try to get some of that capacity built up a little bit. And it's really, again, the flexibility of all of that that we're talking about there.